Have you ever wondered what it feels like to be married to someone who's twice or three times your age? Well, wonder no more, because on this edition of Studio Ken, our spotlight is on child marriage. Almost everyone agrees that there's something not right about a 15-year-old girl, for instance, being called someone's wife. But of course, there are many who see nothing wrong with the practice. I'm joined on the show by two women who have first-hand experience of living with men much older than them in the name of marriage.
Hello, you're watching Studio Ken. Make sure you don't miss any episode of Studio Ken by subscribing to the YouTube channel. To subscribe, search for Studio Ken on YouTube, click subscribe on the bottom right of your screen, and set a reminder. You can also watch Studio Ken on Diamond TV on Wednesday at 18:30 and on Saturday at 19 hours. Studio Ken, the home of Kennedy Gondwe on YouTube.
My name is Chipasha Iliamupu. I'm a child marriage survivor who was married off at the age of 15 to a man that was 20 years older than me.
My name is Elizabeth Chisela. I got married at the age of 16 to a man who was 9 years older than I was.
Now, both of you are no longer married. We'll get to the reasons later. But I think what people want to know, most people would want to know, is why and how were you married off at such an early age? How did you get into that arrangement? Chipasha.
Yeah, in my case, I think at that time, my family, my father who was living then, had been experiencing financial crunches. So he thought pulling me out of school and marrying me off would have helped him to ease the financial burden that he had.
What grade were you in?
I was in grade 9.
So how did you take the decision by your father deciding on your behalf that you needed to get married?
To me, it wasn't a thing because traditionally we are pronounced to be women at puberty. Once one reaches puberty, once one, like in my Lozi tradition, when I reach the puberty stage, when I grow of age, the first step was me being taught on how to keep up with a man and a family. So I didn't really see it then to be an issue because tradition allowed it. Yeah.
So at the age of 15, you had already reached your pubescent stage, and
Yes.
therefore for you getting married wasn't really an issue.
No.
So at what point then did you start realizing that something was not right?
2 years down at the marriage, I started realizing something was very wrong because the man I got married to was abusive in all manner. This is a man that would beat me physically, abuse me physically, psychologically, socially, financially, and also sexually. So trying to compare my marriage then with other marriages, mine came out to be way too different as was compared to others because we were a fighting couple each and every time.
Did you love him?
Despite the beating, yes, I touched an extent of loving him, despite having had been just married off by my father. But I developed some love for him to some extent.
Genuine love?
It was genuine because he was my first love. Yes, thinking maybe loving him would make him stop all the abuses around me. But
When you say your first love, he's the one who broke your virginity.
yes.
Would you go to your father to report to him that you were in an abusive marriage? Or in the name of tradition, you had to soak everything that was happening to you?
I had to soak everything that was happening around me within myself because the teaching that I got during my initiation ceremony bordered on secrecy. They said and taught us to say everything that you experience in your matrimonial home, you have to keep it to yourself, not even telling the person that initiated you. So it was just a battle. Anything, any bad thing that happened to me, I just had to sweep it under the carpet and just knew it by myself without sharing it to any person.
Would you say there's something wrong or there was something wrong with the traditions that we were taught? Because your husband is beating you, he's starving you financially, but in the name of tradition, you continued with the marriage.
Yes, I continued with the marriage because it demanded so, and also it looked a bit normal in the first place because I did not have the education to get to know that whole thing was wrong. To some extent, I then started learning to say whatever I was going through was wrong. But I did not have the strength to stand up to him and tell him, stop this. Can you get to stop this that you are doing? I'm not happy with it, for fear of being even beaten the more.
We are told that people like you who go through abusive marriages put up with so much to an extent that even when he's beating you, you still hug him, you still prepare food for them. Was that the experience with you?
Yeah, it has been with every person that has underwent marital abuse or whatever kind of abuse, more especially that happens in a marriage, because would really mask up everything so that not even the closest neighbor may get to know. Reason being that whatever you do around it, you still get back to him. Because in my marriage, after marrying off my father, did not have anything to do with me. To him, it was like it was done. After yielding the bride price, which was a 300 something kwacha, which he got for my bride price, to him it was like that was it. Oh, yeah. Though when the beatings intensified, I'll get back to him and tell him, Daddy, this marriage that you married me in, I'm not happy. The man beats me. The man is very insulting. The man is very abusive in every manner. So the only issue with my father was he had fears, thinking that if I stood up and filed for divorce, he would be charged the 300 kwacha. And now the biggest issue was, where was he going to find the 300 kwacha to refund for my bride price so that I walk?
So what would he actually tell you? What would your father tell you when you tell him that you are being beaten by your husband?
I would tell my father I was being beaten by my husband. Now, his only answer to that was, where do I get his 300 kwacha and pay him back so that you walk to your freedom? Yeah.
Did that in any way affect your relationship with your father?
It has never affected me, my relationship with my father, because he was my father. I believed in him, and also tradition prepared me for the marriage. I don't have anything against my father to this very point. Even if he was still alive, I'd have told him I don't have anything against him, because it was normal, and I believed he is my father who could not give me poison. I believed anything that my father suggests for me was okay because he was my father.
How about your aunties? How about your mother? Your friends?
My mother was already late at the time that I was married off. For my friends, I never, I'm this person that is friendly to every person, but not to an extent of sharing what I was going through. I kept this person that keeps a lot of things to myself. Yeah. So I could not share anything with my friends to that extent. But when things got out of hand, I started sharing, telling them this is what I've been going through, like my female relatives. So all they would tell me is, no, you know what? Your bride price was already paid and your father used it. You have to stay. Even if he beats you, every married person is beaten. All these homes that you see, they are beaten. That is love. To them, they took the beating as love, as a way of controlling somebody that is wrong, and also as a way of showing love.
So give me an idea, each morning that you woke up after being beaten, or each time you went to sleep, you're sleeping right next to the person that was beating you.
Yes.
How was it like?
The experience wasn't very good, because sometimes I never really knew what wrong I committed for this person to just raise his hand and start beating me up. I would feel, now that I'm grown up, I feel there's a bit of greediness in him, because he did not allow my relatives to visit him at any given point. So each time they would come in for no reason, he'd say, you're finishing my food in this home. Yeah, so the moment a relative just goes, I'll be beaten behind. So getting back to bed with a person that was this abusive in every way, to me it never gave me freedom and surety of waking up to see the following day, because I don't know. I never knew what he would use me, maybe even in the night, to just eliminate me and forget about me. Because some other time you'd say, because he was a soldier, he said, I can kill you, Chipasha, and pay your parent money because your father is poor. All he needs is money.
Paint a picture for me. When all this is happening, at the end of the day, you still needed to be his wife. You still needed to make love with him.
Yes, in a forceful manner, but because that was what marriage is all about. Even if he's beaten you, that is what I was taught. You just have to do it. Or he happens to go out to some other women, because men and sex are inseparable. So you have to be beaten. After being beaten, you also have to give in sexually, because it was a duty for me. I gave it to him not because I enjoyed it or anything. I gave it to him because it was a duty, and just maybe a way, foolishly thinking it was a way of preventing him from going and see other ladies out there.
Hello, my name is Edem Jokoto, and you are welcome to Studio Ken. Please subscribe.
Elizabeth, what's your story like?
My story is totally different from hers. I was one of the most intelligent daughters of my father. So actually my dad was really against me getting married, but my dad retired. So while I was waiting for his money, we had to move from where we used to stay. Like, life changed, you know. We were no longer stable while my dad was waiting for his money. So we had to move from where we were staying to a compound somewhere. So you know how these compound people behave. I fell into what my friends were doing. So in the process, I fell in love with this guy. Anyway, I don't know if it was infatuation, peer pressure, or whatever. So in the process, I fell pregnant whilst I was writing my grade 9 examinations. And then the time that the results were coming out, I was tired. Like, I was yet to give birth. So I could no longer continue with school. And the bad part, like the most hurting part, is I made it with flying colors.
To grade 10.
To grade 10. And that's what made my dad hate me like no man's business, because I disappointed him. My mom, quite all right, understood. And she was in, because the guy came and paid my bride price, and off I went to stay with him. So in the process, I felt like I wasn't strong enough to bear a child normally. So I had to go through cesarean section for my first child, and it was unfortunate. I lost him. I fell pregnant again for my second son, and then that's where the maltreatment came in. Like, I don't know where it used to come from. As you can, my face can tell, you see the scars. Gender-based violence came in, but the problem with my husband was that he could bribe my family, like my sisters. He would pretend he's a good man to everybody out there. You know, whatever people asked for, he would give my family. He wanted my family to visit us all the time, but behind that bedroom, being tortured, you know, sometimes he would deliberately leave home for work without leaving anything for me, you know.
What would your family make of the kind of treatment that you were receiving? Because at the same time, they were getting money from him in order for them to keep quiet.
No, it's not that they were getting it in order for them to keep quiet. He just wanted to wear a mask, as in, so that they see him to be a very good person, so that whenever I tell them stories to say this is what I'm going through, nobody would believe me. Yeah. And
how easy was it for you then to convince your family that the person that they thought was actually a good man was a torturer?
It wasn't easy at all. So I had to use his youngest brother. Yeah, I took him in. We started staying together. So he's the person that actually helped me to reach out to my family to say, no, my sister-in-law is not okay. Things are not okay in that house. You know, I began to lose weight. You know, he started beating me while I was still pregnant. In the process, stress, whatever, I developed diabetes.
How many children did you have with him?
3.
So you've got 3 children from that marriage?
I've got 2. The first one is late.
Why did you still go ahead to give him a second child when you knew very well that you were in an abusive marriage?
You know, I had this auntie of mine who valued marriage so much. So whenever I pack my bags, I would pack and go. She would come to say, no, women, we go through all this. And then, in fact, you don't even have to share it with anybody. You know, however your man treats you, keep it a secret, because a woman who keeps a secret keeps a home. So if you just tell everybody around whatever you're going through, you're killing your marriage. There was a time that I packed. I went back to my father's house, and then my husband came to apologize. So I refused to say, no, I don't want to come back to your house. And then my father's reaction, you know, he almost beat his son-in-law up. Yeah. Actually, he never even liked him, not even a single bit like that.
So when was it finally enough for you?
When it was finally enough for me was when he locked me up in the house, and then he just woke up midnight. Yeah, I even looked at the time. It was 00:30 something. He started beating me. I didn't do anything wrong. He just woke up from his sleep. So I had to scream for help, because actually I think that was supposed to be the last day of my life, because he wanted to beat me to death. So I started screaming for help. That's when neighbors came and helped me pull through.
Are you able to relate with what she's saying?
Yes.
Tell me more.
I can relate, but the only difference with me is, in all the time that he has been beating me, I never cried aloud.
Why?
For fear. Like my neighbors, even relatives would judge me for being less a woman. So he would beat me, just tears would be rolling down my cheeks up to when he's done. And then I wasn't this kind of a person that after being beaten, I'd pack my bags and go. I saw stupidity in that arrangement, because I would go and still come back. So all I wanted was to find a place where once I pack, I just pack once and for all and never come back.
And that time came. You packed once and for all and left.
That time came. With the help of YWCA in Kaoma in a safe space, I was told on the dangers of early marriages and its negative impact on the girl child. So, going through their lessons, I gained the strength within myself. I started accepting myself and realized, oh, this man is treating me this way because I do not have any education and I'm his parasite. For me to eat, I depended on him. Yeah. My case is, after getting married at 15, I became a mother at 15. So in the first year of my marriage, looking at how young my baby was, I told myself, how will I hustle even if I went? That's the time when I started telling my relatives to say, I think this marriage is not working. All they would say is, you even have a child for him. Maybe bear a second child for him, he would stop being abusive to you. They didn't understand, because I was living in that man's private life. Outside, I would think he was normal, but I lived in his private life. So it came to be a very difficult situation for me. And so with the help that I found from YWCA, I realized, okay, I'm going all through this because I do not have an education. What's my next step to do? I re-enrolled at a local school in the area where I was married. I re-enrolled for grade 9. Thank goodness for the re-entry policy. So I was allowed to re-enter for grade 9 and so paid. And then I wrote my grade 9 exams while still married to him. And
Was
then
he allowing you to go back to school?
I never went to school. I never went to school the whole period that I paid for my grade 9. In the first place, I even didn't tell him that I have paid for my school. I'll be
Because it was against school.
He was against, because when I raised the issue of me going back to school, to him it was like, whoa. He told me I had to produce a second child for him also. But why my father charged him a 300 kwacha was because he said he would take my education issue upon himself, take me back to school up to a certain level where I would be. But when I got into his home, everything changed. So me hitting on the issue of wanting to get back to school, telling him my desire of wanting to go back to school, it resulted into him being more violent to me. So having that at the back of my mind, I did not tell him I've paid. So how I paid for my school, I sold water in his home. I started poaching water in plastic papers. 15 ngwe then. 15 ngwe today? No.
500 kwacha.
This money.
Regardless of the
Yes.
amount, it's very little amount of money.
Yes. So that's how I raised the money that I use to pay for my examination fee at Luena Basic School as an external class. But I never went to school for fear of being, no, she's now in school. Maybe he was going to beat life out of me.
How were you managing? At home, you didn't want your husband to know that you were in school, but you were actually in school.
Yes.
How were you managing?
I managed by grace because my ex-husband's first child was just a grade below me and 2 years younger than me. Yeah. So the issue was, as a mother, I would go buy study material in the name of this stepchild of mine who was studying, who was in her grade 8 and I was studying for grade 9. So sometimes we do things together like I'm helping my stepchild.
But did your stepchild know that you're actually in school?
She didn't know because the whole time when I re-enrolled in school, I never got back. I never had time to go and sit behind the borak and learn. So I learned in my stepchild's bedroom. When he reports for waking at 7, so me, I will remain home, do my studying home. When he comes back for lunch, it's break. He eats, he gets back, I'll get back to my books. In the night after supper, I'll be like, I'm helping my stepdaughter. So that's how I got through. And then when I sat for my exams, I made it to our local secondary school, Kauma Secondary School, made it to grade 10.
And after that,
And
you
after
went
that-
to the University of Zambia.
And after that, when I got to grade 10, that is how I felt more strong and said, oh, okay,
This is it.
education pays. That's how I stood up. Because the organization could not help me file for divorce because my marriage was consented by my father. So I did a one soldier woman. I went to court, filed for divorce, and then that's how I left the abusive marriage. And then continued with my education at Kauma Secondary School, completed my grade 12 with 10 points, and then applied to the University of Zambia where I was admitted. And then I've been at the University of Zambia from 2014 to 2018 when I graduated a Bachelor of Arts. With education, I studied linguistics and African languages. I'm right now a graduate of the University of Zambia.
Wow.
Good.
Hello, my name is Edem Jokoto and you are welcome to Studio Ken. Please subscribe.